So I have my compositional area taped off. I have my photo taped and hinged. This is what we're going to do with a graphite transfer. Now, as I was saying, this paper is thick. So when I do the transfer, if I press too hard, it's going to make a dent in the paper. I don't want to dent my paper. What happens is, if I'm working on a piece of watercolor paper and I press too hard, it creates a dent in the paper, and what happens when I go to paint is this. So here's a piece of paper from the side, right? Here's the paper. If I press too hard, what happens is it makes a dent from the pencil mark, like a V. So when I take a brush, and the brush tries to go over this, what doesn't happen? Nothing gets down in that hole. So it won't work if you have a problem with pressing too hard. So what I need to do is, if I look at my Ceral paper, I have my light side and my darker side. The darker side already has some transfers used. It's okay. Now if you notice, the transfer paper is almost as big, not necessarily as big as your photo print. So you might need to move it a little bit. That's okay. All right. So I'm going to lay it down with the darker side down. I'm going to bring my photo back over, and I'm going to look for contour edges of separation. So if I look now at what my subject is, I'm not going to try to trace every single branch, every single tree. I'm just going to give myself a contour drawing with a little bit of pressure, right? Any edge of separation where there's differences in textures, especially right there. Now look, if I stop and I lift this up, you see the graphite? See how light it is? It's because I didn't press hard, and the graphite transfers from this. When I get to other things that have a little bit more rigidity, for example, this flower form, right? I can see that it has some third dimension to it. And then this one's overlapping it. I've got to look for even, you see that tiny little dark shape right there? You see that tiny little dark shape, that tiny little dark shape? All right. I need to look at those values, and I need to trace them. Every once in a while, it is okay to stop and lift it up and check and see if it's transferring. All right? Don't remove this. You can move the Ceral paper around underneath, but you don't want to move the hinge, because if you move the hinge, it's going to offset it and you're never going to get it lined up perfectly. All right? So continue that process of freehand tracing and transferring. So right in here, you see, if you look closely, right in that area right there, in that flower, see those variations in value, light and dark? I'm not going to trace every edge of separation there, because that would be almost crazy. What I am going to do is reference that big one. Like there's that big one there, there's a big one there, and then the inside edge of this flower is kind of broken along here, and it kind of comes along there. And then those ellipses, if I look at those ellipses, I can see on the outside of those ellipses there's a little highlight. You can kind of see there's a shadow here, like that, and then there's the shape of the inside. That's the values. So that when, let me go back here and I'll show you what that ends up looking like. That creates that third dimension for that particular shape. All right. Don't over detail, please, for your own sake. Like I said, here, these areas of flower, watch. In this case, since it's fairly flat, when I go to trace this and transfer this, what I do need to do is follow that contour. But these stems and stuff, or these veins in here, I'm not going to press really hard. What I want to do is I want to reference the area between them. Why? I'm referencing the area between them because these lines on the veins of this flower are light. I don't want a dark mark where I want a light line, because I'm going to add value into this later. So if I do that and allow for the lines to draw the outside edge of the highlight, now I can see where the highlight's going to go when I add the shading. Okay? All right. Take some time to transfer the entire thing onto your paper. Remember not to press too hard in order to not create a dark mark on your sheet.